guys get signed? And you because one of the things that I was trying to get to was the fact that you get signed by LaFace. They're headquartered in Atlanta. That's where everyone's at. Was it a vote? Let's go to stay in California, LA with BabyFace.
No, we didn't have a say in that at all. In the sense that we got the record deal after singing in DC. We auditioned in Washington, DC for BabyFace. He was doing a show, a fundraiser for border babies in DC. It was, we got to open for El DeBarge, After Seven, and BabyFace. We performed in a private conference first, and he loved what he heard. And it was funny because one of the cool parts about this story is that Jacqueline McQuarrie, who was BabyFace's mother-in-law, Tracy's mother, God rest her soul, she said, you know what, you guys, I'm going to take the risk and buy you guys some matching outfits, because we were bummy, you know, we're scrubs. We all crammed in a car and drove up there just with whatever. So we went and bought little ties and white shirts and whatever, looking all sharp, right? And we had cordless mics in our pockets so that when we went to audition and Face says, you guys ready? We pulled them out of our pockets and we're like, yep. And he was like, you guys really are ready. Like, we weren't playing. So we signed to LaFace in California. They flew us to California. The label said, come here to record the record with BabyFace, because LaFace was starting a division called LaFace West.
Okay.
So they didn't start a new label called LaFace West. It was just a division of LaFace. And that label was to be, you know, I'm looking back on it now, there may have been a bit of competition, you know, because everyone looked at L.A. Reid as the business person and Face as the music guy. So I think in a way there might have been like a kind of a healthy competition to say, hey, look, you know, I can handle my business too. And his wife being a very keen, well, his ex-wife now, being a very keen businesswoman, she probably had a little bit of influence in that regard, because she, as you can see, she started a film company and she had her own label called Yab Yum, which had John B on the label.
Yeah.
And there was Edmonds Tower, which was the old Lul Silas building.
I worked there. I worked there for a year.
That's right. Yeah. So yes, we didn't have a choice. It wasn't as though, we did go to Atlanta and we visited, but we were always kind of like the outsiders in a sense. Like we hung out with Tony Braxton and TLC, and, you know, I'm like smoked out with Big Gip and all them, and, you know, hung out with CeeLo and you name it. And some of the other groups that didn't get as much shine, like Society of Soul. Anyway, for whatever reason, we happened to be the first flagship artist on that LaFace West division. And when you first get in, you don't want to make waves. The last thing we're going to do is say, no, we're putting our foot down. We're going to go to Atlanta. I mean, besides, coming from Philadelphia, it's a lot better. The optics are better when you say, hey, we're moving to LA, like go chase our dreams. Then they say, we're moving to Atlanta. Now people go to Atlanta to chase their dream. But back then, Atlanta was just budding.
So here you are. So you're with Face, and he's saying, I'm going to write and produce the album. Did you guys have any opportunity, apart from the song that you did, to get involved, or did he just say, okay, I just need your vocals and then go?
Yeah, this is an interesting. That's a great question. The process was really kind of learn as you go. So Face was very open to ideas. If you presented them, you had to kind of choose your spots. So what would happen, like he'd record a demo, which was basically like the skeleton version of the song. We would have keys and a one take of the lead, and we'd take it home and listen to it and learn it and come back. But then when it came to like the way the vocals were laid down, like for instance with Last Night, the original demo, when it came to the verses, he just said, all right, you try it. And then after 2 takes, he wouldn't even put you in the booth yet. Everyone would line up and he would say, okay, like let's say Mark was standing there and he'd say, okay, Mark, try this. Last night. Okay, Dion, you try this. Last night, right? And go around. And then, all right, you try it again? All right, you. So he'd give you like maybe two tries. And after that, whoever he liked, he put in the booth. So then when it came to my part, right? Like I knew my part was coming up because he had given it to me, right? And I had to use the bathroom. So he's like queuing up the part and I'm sitting on a toilet, like waiting to record my part. And I'm kind of like messing around with a little thing. But the way that the demo went, right? It was, you know, I said, I drank your wine as you taste mine. I kissed your lips, you felt my body. Like his version went, I drank your wine and you taste mine. Yeah, I kissed your lips, you felt my body. He said, into your soul, girl, I heard you moan. And I went into your soul. It was an accident. It was like the second take. And I was like, I forgot the words. He's like, no, we're keeping that. And that was it. The rest is history. A lot of people's favorite part of the song was a happy accident where I screwed the words up.
Oh, so he keeps, so when you record it, he doesn't say to re-record, he just says, no, we'll just leave one take.
No, and he has an art of knowing when to keep something that feels right, even if it's technically wrong. And that's a lost art because now people sterilize things with, you know, melodyne, auto-tune. Yeah. But he knew how to keep, and he had to keep the right blue notes. And the thing was, I thought that I could have done it better even after he liked it. But I think because Mark was going to come in and hit almost pretty much the same note, but in full voice, mine had to be like an eighth of a tone underneath so that when he came in dead on, it would sound higher. You know, it's something like how people tune guitar strings slightly in or out.
Yeah. It's
a lost art, man. He's freaking genius. So to answer your question, right? Other than Hard to Say I'm Sorry, Mark Nelson did co-write some songs, but the way he did it, I mean, no offense to Mark Nelson, because he did what he had to do, and he knows how I feel about him. However, the way I envisioned the group working on a record was, hey guys, I've got an idea for a song for the album. What do you think? Oh, we love it. And then you go to BabyFace and say, hey man, the guys really love this song. What do you think? No, what happened was some dealings were done on the side and then we show up at the studio like, surprise, you're doing this song that you've never heard before and you don't really like. That happened a lot. Not personally with Mark Nelson, but in general, the only person who played our songs for us before we got to hear them was BabyFace. So all of his songs we liked, all of them. And there's a lot of songs that he did that didn't make the record that were great, fantastic. He didn't give us no B-slouch songs. All of his songs were great. But what I'm saying is that a lot of times when it came to the rest of the group producing, well, it's like this. Jacqueline McCorn, God rest her soul, asked the group who we wanted to work with. And the only person, the first person on my list was Mervyn Warren from Take Six, because we were influenced by Take Six. And I thought the only person who would give us that kind of sound would be the guy who was the arranger for Take Six at that time. To her credit, we worked with Mervyn Warren. And when we got to a certain stage of the record, it got to the point where because of personality conflicts and complications and scheduling, there were times when Face would say, hey, look, I'm gonna need you to sit here and take the chair for a minute. I got other stuff to do. So I became the guy who would sit and produce Kenny Terry's vocals or, you know, make sure the harmonies were stacked right in between times. And that was a great learning experience for me. I never asked to be credited because I didn't want to drive a wedge in. It was already difficult enough without driving a wedge in the group, trying to fight for credit for every little thing, because I was already thankful that I got a song on the record, which actually turned out to be our most successful single in the sense that it was nominated for a Grammy and all those other things that came along with it. Mark's songs, he did Time to End the Story and Every Bit of My Heart. Now, personally, a lot of people love those songs, but did I think that they were as good as the BabyFace songs? Or they're all right. They're all right. And a lot of people love them, but I would have rather had 2 more BabyFace songs. I would have taken Hard to Say I'm Sorry off the record and got an original song from David Foster. So I'm not even saying that I think I'm all that great. I just thought when I joined the group and when I stayed in for the 6 years, I thought we were going to do what we did to get the deal, which was we sat together and wrote songs together. We rehearsed together. We arranged our own stuff together. Everyone wrote their own verses. Then it became, you know, okay. But by the way, Mark Nelson was brought in to replace someone after we got the record deal. So we got the record deal without Mark Nelson, but because his range sat really high within, you know, the tenor range where BabyFace writes, and because of his having been in Boyz II Men, and his talent, obviously his talent, he was pushed to the forefront. And if it was up to him at the time, it would have been Mark and the Markettes.
But did you guys not have, because I've watched The Temptations, I've seen all this, did you guys not have a meeting and say, guys, come on, what brought us here, let us keep to that? So
no, we had fist fights because the label, when we signed the record deal, how about this? When we got the contract, it said that we designate BabyFace as the sole producer, executive producer, and at his discretion, he can bring other people in or not. So I mentioned all of this, the meeting was had before we signed the deal. I was gonna walk away again. And they said, you know what? How do you know? You're not a lawyer. I'm like, it's plain freaking English to me. Mr. I turned down scholarships to be here is trying to tell you that this ain't right. It's a conflict of interest that we got the mother-in-law as the manager, number one. Number two is that we have no creative input or control. And I think to the label's credit, they could sense that I was really resentful of that, or at least adamant about wanting to participate. And I feel like I did get an opportunity to participate at a level that many people would never have gotten the chance to. And the industry respects hustle. So if you show up and you ask questions and you're there, you know, you may get an idea here or there. And I wasn't the kind of person who's like, oh, I got to get all my ideas on. I wanted the whole group to sit and collaborate. But again, that's not why they signed us. They didn't sign us like when they sign rock bands, they'll put them in a garage and say, keep working on it until you get a record together, or we're going to put the band with the producer, or we're going to hire session musicians and get you to replay their parts. Okay. It depends on what kind of band you're in. Yeah. But the kind of band we were in was, you are a vehicle for the label / spokesmodels, you know what I'm saying? Okay. For the agenda, which is cool. Okay. And they tell you to take a hit first so you can make a hit later. That everyone tells you that story. Yeah, do what they say and then you'll make a way. But by then, you've already established your career having done things a certain way. So when you take away BabyFace and you take away Mark Nelson, then the industry's taking a step back, like, there's some elements missing that made you successful. We're not sure about you anymore.
And so, and I guess, because when I've interviewed other people in other groups, they look at the contracts, they look at the situation and think, okay, it's not great, but it's better than nothing. And it's an if we hit it off good, we can renegotiate the second contract. That's the
true that. True that. Now you bring up a great point. There was no second contract for us because we had a 7-album deal, but the label didn't last for 7 albums. So basically, without getting too far into the details of things, I'll just say that they paid us to leave, in the sense that other artists were involved in lawsuits. As everyone knows, TLC and Toni Braxton at the time had their issues with LaFace. We chose not to go that route because we didn't want to waste time, money, and energy trying to sue the most powerful people in the industry when we could be rebuilding and moving on. Because you're not allowed to record with another label until you've resolved that contract, or you got to get bought out by another company. And at the time, we didn't have the same management, and we didn't have Mark Nelson. And it's not that we wanted Mark Nelson; he was voted out. And we wish him the best, but he knows what decisions were made and how it was really done. And as a corporation, we owned the rights to the trademark and the name, but the industry was scrambling because in addition to the label no longer existing other than as an imprint, we also had to deal with the fact that R&B was shifting away from the boy band era, as they call it in the UK. Okay, we signed in '94, and the Last Night went #1 in '96. Like we signed in late 94. So 95, we spent recording the album and into 96 because we had a lot of downtime waiting for Face was working on, well, he was working on Waiting to Exhale and Tony Braxton's album and all sorts of wonderful projects. So in the meantime, we were recording with a lot of great producers and some of which, man, when I tell you some great songs from like, let's say Mike City, Brian Alexander Morgan did some great stuff. He's the one that wrote with SWV.
Yeah, I interviewed him last week. Really, one of my.
That's my dude. Now he's the truth. So we did all these great songs and worked with a lot of great producers, and it never came out. It didn't make the first record. So not because they weren't good, but again,
whose decision was it to not put, say, Brian's song or Mike City's song?
BabyFace was the sole and exclusive executive producer and the sole lead producer. We were being billed for his production services, and we were using his facilities, which were also property and parcel of Arista, distributed by BMG. So he was paying himself to pay himself. And our commission, well, let's just say our royalties, had to reimburse him first before we saw anything. And I'm sure there were some tax write-offs involved with the business of that. So, you know, that's the way the game's played.
Thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, to press the notification bell so that you can be notified when we do have a new interview. Loads to come, but thanks a lot for watching.